The bathroom mirror swung open like a door, but it wasn't a cabinet. It was a narrow space in the wall, big enough for a person to enter. The mirror between. We booked a duplex for a long weekend by the beach. It looked plain on purpose. White walls, gray couch, bright kitchen, 2 small bedrooms, 1 full bath. Quiet side street, no parties. The message thread with the host was short and polite. Code sent, door opened, vacation started. The first night after showers, I noticed the mirror fogged everywhere except a thin strip around the edges. The glass there stayed clear, like something warm sat behind it. When I leaned close, I felt a faint draft on my cheek. I ran my fingers along the frame and found 4 tiny hex screws sunk into the corners. The caulk line looked newer than the paint. From the other side of the wall came a soft scrape. Not pipes, something light brushing drywall. I told my girlfriend it was nothing. She said, if it was nothing, you wouldn't be listening. We slept with the bathroom door closed. Morning was normal. Coffee, short walk, gulls yelling at the trash truck. That night, the scrape came back. Then a whispering sound, like somebody talking near a pillow. I texted the host a photo of the screws and asked if the mirror was supposed to be removable. He replied fast, all fixture standard. Please do not tamper with safety equipment. I stood in the doorway and watched the glass. When the fan was off, the draft at the edge was still there. I found a small hex key in the junk drawer by the stove. I turned 1 screw a quarter and then felt the face pull a little. My girlfriend said my name in the voice that means don't. I said we'd look and put it back. The mirror swung like a door on a hidden hinge. Behind it wasn't a cabinet. It was a narrow space the width of a backpack, running left and right, dusty and close. I could see studs, old paint, a candy wrapper flattened into the grit, and a cable stapled along the back. Air moved through it in a slow, steady breath. Close it, my girlfriend said. I aimed my phone light down the left side. 20 feet away, the space ended at another piece of glass. Another mirror set into the wall of the unit next door. A hairline of light showed around its edge. I could hear a TV in there, low, and 2 voices talking about what to eat. I'm not opening that, I said. I slid into the space anyway. My shoulders brushed wood. Dust lifted and hung in the beam. I kept the light low and moved slow, 1 knee, then the other. When I reached the other mirror, I held still and listened. The voices were clear now. A woman was laughing at something small. A man was washing dishes. It sounded like any rental at 10 p.m. I stayed in the space. I didn't touch the mirror. I just wanted to confirm what it was and go back. My phone rang once in my hand. 1 short burst, loud in the tight air. My girlfriend's name filled the screen. She was in the bedroom, calling to ask where I was. On the other side of the mirror, the voices went silent. A chair moved. Feet came across linoleum. The mirror in front of my face slid a half inch, then another. A woman's eye found me through the crack, then her whole face. She screamed like she'd found a stranger at the window. A man shouldered into frame, grabbed the side of the mirror, and yanked it open all the way. We stared at each other at arm's length, with a pane of glass between. I said, "Don't," but it didn't matter. He shouted for me to get out. I backed up the way I came, fast, elbows and knees, the beam jittering over dust and staples. The mirror in our bathroom stood open like a mouth. I popped out, swung it shut, and shoved the hex screw with my thumb to catch the edge. It held. We left the bathroom light on and stood in the hallway. Through the wall, we heard the couple next door arguing, then a door slam. A minute later, our doorbell rang, hard. We didn't answer. My girlfriend said, "We need to go." And then we started throwing clothes into bags. Before we could finish, red and blue lights splashed across the blinds. A fist hit the door. Police! The couple next door had already called them. I told the officers we'd step outside. They separated us on the porch. The man from next door pointed straight at me and said a string of words I agreed with. Bathroom, mirror, crawl, creep, just not in that order. I told the officers my side. The screws, the draft, the gap, the space, the phone ring, the mirror in the other unit. I showed the photo I'd taken of the screw head scratched shiny. My girlfriend told them she'd texted me while I was gone, and the phone rang once. They listened, calm and flat. They asked for IDs, the booking, the host messages. Then they said we needed to come with them and answer more questions at the station. We sat in the back of the car and watched the duplex shrink through the glass as they pulled away. The bathroom light over the sink was still on. They kept us at the station for hours. Separate rooms, the same questions. Whose idea was it to open the mirror? What did I see? Why didn't I call the host first? We handed over the booking, our IDs, the check-in texts. When they finally let us go, the sun was high and all I wanted was our stuff. We drove back to the duplex. My girlfriend went straight for the suitcases. I went straight for the bathroom. The mirror looked like it had never moved. Flush to the wall, neat caulk line, no hex screws, no hinge gap, no draft on my fingers. I told myself the host must have put the mirror back up while we were being questioned. I grabbed the bottom and yanked. Nothing. I got a butter knife from the kitchen drawer and worked it under the edge. The glass creaked and came free with a sticky old glue smell. When I looked behind the mirror, I froze. It was a solid wall, hard, cold, layered with old paint. No opening, no screw holes, no marks, just wall. I stood there holding the mirror, breathing loud. My forearm still had a line where I scraped it in the dark. Dust was still on my knees from crawling, but there was nothing to show, just a plain rectangle of wall. My girlfriend came to the doorway, saw the wall, and backed up like it was a snake. Her eyes were wide and her voice was strained. "That's it. We're leaving. Right now." I didn't argue. I set the mirror in the tub. We grabbed what was important and left the rest. We paused only long enough to drop the keys in the lockbox, not a second longer. We drove until the rental was a line in the rearview mirror. To this day, when I look into a bathroom mirror, I always wonder if I'm the only one looking back. We found the camera by accident, not a Wi-Fi puck, an old wired lens tucked in the smoke detector. I followed the cable along the baseboard to the basement. The wire went straight under a locked door. There was a light under it and someone moving on the other side. The wire under the door. I booked the place because it looked boring. Beige walls, plaid sofa, like 15 minutes away. The listing said, "Quiet getaway, no parties," which was exactly what my girlfriend and I needed after a week of family noise. The host messaged back fast, sent a keypad code, and that was that. We got in just before dark. It smelled like pine sol and old carpet. There were laminated rules on the counter. Take your shoes off. Don't move the furniture. Quiet hours. The kind of place where you hear the fridge more than the traffic. I was the one who spotted it. I was lying on the couch staring up when the smoke detector over the hallway caught my eye. It was newer than the other one in the kitchen. Same brand sticker, but the faceplate was a different shade of white, like it had been sun faded on a different ceiling. And there was a dot, a perfect pinhole, not dead center, just left of the test button. I stood on a dining room chair and popped the cover. It didn't hinge. It pulled straight off, like someone had replaced the guts. Inside wasn't a smoke sensor. It was a tiny board with a lens the size of an aspirin, hot to the touch, and a thin black cable running out the back through a drilled hole in the ceiling cavity. "Tell me that's not," my girlfriend said. "It's a camera," I said, "but not wireless." She wanted to pack. I wanted to know where the wire went. Old houses have tells. This one had a vent register near the ceiling with 2 stripped screws, like someone had been in there recently. I followed the baseboard around the hall and found a fresh bit of caulk where the wall met trim. The cable had been routed discreetly along the edge, painted over, then dropped behind a coat closet. Inside the closet, the back panel had 4 new finish nails. When I pried one corner up, the panel breathed warm air at me. Fan noise, faint and steady, coming from below. The stair door to the basement was at the end of the hall. It had a spring hinge that dragged like a heavy eyelid. We didn't see a light switch. The bulb at the top of the stairs was on a pull chain that had been tied out of reach, like someone didn't want guests turning it off. The wire hugged the wall down the stairs, stapled every foot. Halfway down, the air turned from pine sol to something sweet and metallic, like coins warmed in a palm. At the bottom was another door. Not an interior door from a hardware store, a solid, painted slab with a hasp on it. A deadbolt sat above it, freshly installed, shiny where the screwdriver had slipped and kissed the paint. Under the door, light. Not bright, a tired fluorescent glow paddling across the old concrete. We listened. Something shifted beyond the door. Not footsteps, more like a chair leg bumping into something. Wood on concrete, then a little scrape. I whispered, "Hello?" The scrape stopped. Then came a small, quick sound, plastic against plastic, like someone picking up a remote and setting it down. My girlfriend tugged my sleeve. "We need to go." The adult thing to do would have been to call the host, then the non-emergency line, then a hotel. The human thing to do was to press my ear to the door. On the other side, I heard a fan whir, a faint click every few seconds, and the low murmur of audio, like the volume was up one notch above mute. I pictured a rack of old equipment, a VCR, maybe a DVR with a spinning disc, all heat and dust and tiny LEDs sleepless in the dark. I tried the knob. It didn't turn. I didn't force it. I put my mouth near the seam and said, "We found a camera upstairs." Something tapped back 3 times, polite, as if acknowledging a neighbor through a wall. We went upstairs, without running, because running invites something to match your speed, and locked the basement door behind us. I took photos of the fake detector gut and the wire. My girlfriend started packing. The host replied to my message fast. "That is not possible. The smoke detectors are standard and required by county code. Please do not tamper with the safety equipment." I sent the photos. I told him we were leaving and wanted a refund. He didn't answer. 30 seconds later, the hallway smoke detector made a chirp I've never heard a detector make, like 2 short beeps, then silence. When I looked up, the pinhole wasn't black anymore. It glinted. We hauled our bags toward the door. On my way out, I looked through the floor vent in the hall. The duct didn't drop into a metal trunk, not right away. It fell into a gap, an empty chase that ran along the stairs. In the dusty shadow, just visible, was a coil of the same black cable looping past. Something clicked under the floor. The living room TV turned itself on. No input, just a blue screen and the words, "No signal." Then the screen popped to life. A still image of the living room from above, the exact angle of the fake detector, except the picture wasn't live. I could see us in the frame, frozen mid-pack, but the clock on the corner was wrong by 20 minutes. I unplugged the TV. The furnace fan kicked on immediately as if in answer. We left. We didn't slam the door. We didn't speak on the porch. In the car, my girlfriend's hands shook on the wheel while I called the non-emergency number. I described what we found, gave the address, and asked if an officer could meet us there. The dispatcher said someone would check. We drove to a 24-hour diner across town and sat in the well-lit corner where the staff could see us. The coffee was bad. The light was beautiful. An hour later, a number I didn't recognize called my phone. A calm voice said they'd visited the property. No one answered the door. No signs of a break-in. The basement was locked and described as owner storage, which is allowed by policy. I asked if they'd seen any equipment. The voice said they weren't able to enter the secured areas without a warrant. If I wanted to file a report, I could come down to the station in the morning. We didn't go back. I sent the platform my photos, the message thread, and a request to escalate. The listing disappeared a day later. Our refund took a week. 3 nights after we got home, a padded envelope showed up with no return address. Inside was a smoke detector faceplate and a note in neat block letters. Please do not disturb owner storage. Thank you for your stay. There was a gray thumb smudge on the paper, like whoever wrote it almost signed their name. I swapped every detector in our place that afternoon. New units, new bases. The old ones went in a plastic tote in the hall closet. At 3:12 a.m., 2 short beeps woke me. Not an alarm, just 2 neat chirps, the same pattern we'd heard at the rental. Our TV in the living room came on by itself. No signal flashed once. Then the screen jumped to a ceiling view of our own couch and hallway. Live. In the corner, a timestamp I didn't set. I pulled the plug. The screen died. A thin stripe of light showed under the hall closet door. When I opened it, the plastic tote was cracked open. On top sat the faceplate from the envelope turned upside down. In its center, a tiny glass pinhole. A thin black wire ran off the back of it and disappeared through a thumb-sized hole someone had drilled in the drywall behind our coats. We left right then, called it in from the car, met an officer at a friend's place, and didn't go back until daylight with the locksmith and the landlord. I don't book rentals with locked owner storage or basements anymore, and if I ever see a wire that shouldn't be there, I don't follow it. I leave and let someone else with a badge open the door.